Welcome to Battle Companies Season 1 Episode 8. The first battle will be between Moria and the Dead of Dunharrow. The second battle will be Warg Riders against Durins Folk. For Warband updates, watch the last episode from 5201. At the end of the video, I will do the aftermath on every warband. This has normally been done off camera, but will be included at the end of the video. Enjoy! This is the scoreboard from the last round. The scenario for this encounter will be a chance encounter. Both players will roll a d6 and the highest scoring player will choose their table edge. The player then places their battle company within 12 inches of their chosen edge, and their opponent then places their battle company within 12 inches of the opposite board edge. The objectives for this scenario is to try and get the opposing battle company to 25% of its starting models. The game can become a draw if both battle companies have been reduced to 25% in the same turn. This is the layout of the board we are playing on today. The Army of the Dead won the roll-off and chose this as their deployment zone, deploying their entire force in one cluster near the middle. The Goblins deployed on the opposite side, of course, with 3 archers on top of the building and the other Goblins and the Cave Troll in the middle of the board. The Dead of Dunharrow comes in at 240 points, and the Moria Goblins is at 231, so this is a pretty close match. Now the board is set and the pieces are ready to move, and we will start with priority. In the first round, the Dead of Dunharrow got priority and moved up their full distance, keeping out of range of the Goblin archers. The Goblin archers stood still, and the remaining forces of the Goblins moved forward and created a shield wall. The Troll is moved off to the side to be able to receive the Riders of the Dead if they try to come around. In the next round, the Goblins got priority and they elected to stand still. The Warriors of the Dead moved in closer, and the Riders of the Dead are trying a flanking maneuver. In the shooting phase, the Moria Goblin archers are trying to shoot at Arthur in the back. This is because he has a defense of 7 and he is the most easily wounded. The Goblins will need 5s to hit, and they get 1 hit. In the way roll for the Army of the Dead guy in front, and he hits Galad. And they need 6s by 5s. Nothing. The Army of the Dead got priority and moved closer with their infantry forces. Their cavalry were able to charge the troll, they passed their courage test. And the reason they did that is to force the Goblins not to retreat, to be able to fire more on the oncoming dead ones. The Goblins did pull back, however. 2 of the Goblins went into combat with this Rider of the Dead, but the guy in the front here failed his courage test, so he is in the open. In the shooting phase, the Moria Goblins will fire their bows at Arthur once again, needing 5s to hit, and they get 2 hits in the way rolls, and both of them go through. To wound Arthur, they need 6s by 4s, and they get 1 6. Can they get a 4? No. In the fight phase, we have 2 combats, 1 Prowler with a spear support against a Rider of the Dead, and 1 Troll against a Rider of the Dead. Let's resolve them now. The Prowler and the Black Shield sets the bar against the Rider of the Dead, and they get a 5. The Rider of the Dead gets 6 and wins the fight. This means that the Prowler is knocked prone, and the Rider of the Dead gets 4 attacks against him, needing 4s to kill. And I get 1-4. It's a 6, but you know what I mean. The Prowler got a promotion last game and became a hero, so he has 1 point of fate. He is named Sandry, this one, and will he save? He do! He does! Oh my lord, my English. In the other fight, the Troll sets the bar at a 5. The Rider of the Dead gets 1, double ones. And the Rider was just outside of 6 inches of Galad, which meant that if he had been within 6 inches, he could reroll 1 of the dice. The Troll has a strength of 6 and the Rider has a defense of 8, which means the Troll will need 5s to wound. But he has a 2-handed weapon, which means he can strike on 4s. So he needs 4s to wound the Rider. And he gets 1-4. This Rider got upgraded last game, so he has 1 point of fate. He will use that now. And he do not save, so he is dead. And if you wonder his name is... ooh, hard to see. His name is Ghoul. A very good start for the goblins, but can this continue? The Army of the Dead got priority, and the Rider of the Dead charged into the Troll once more. 5 of the Army of the Dead guys charged into this lonely goblin over here. And Arthur is going to cast a magical power, Transfix, on the Troll. He will use 1 point of will and he needs a 3-up. And that's a 4, so the Troll is transfixed. He will then move into combat. The goblins rolled very well on their courage tests, and the Prowler got into combat with the Rider of the Dead once again, supported by his Black Shield brother. 2 other goblins got into combat over here, and then they were supported by 2 spearmen. Zork failed his courage test, and so did this goblin over here. The archers have had enough and went down from the building to try to overman the Army of the Dead. Let's start with this battle. A Troll, a Prowler, and a Black Shield against a Rider of the Dead. The Rider sets the bar at a 6. And the Troll gets also 6, which means they win the fight. As the Troll is transfixed, however, he cannot strike blows, but the Prowler and the Black Shield can, so they will do that now. The Black Shield will need 6s by 4s, and the Prowler will need 5s by 3s because of his 2-handed axe. The red die is the Prowler. Nothing. In the next fight, we have Kaspar and a friend against 2 goblins. One of them is Gosh. The dead one sets the bar at a 3. And the goblins get 6, winning the fight. But the Army of the Dead guys can reroll 1 die because of the heroic presence of Galad. And they will do that, but it's not enough. The goblins will need 6s by 4s to wound, and they get nothing. In the next fight, 1 goblin is against 2 dead ones, and the goblin will be shielding. He gets a 3 high. And the dead guys, 2, but will reroll the 1 because of heroic presence and gets a 4 and wins the fight. They need 4s to kill, and they get 1-4, so he is dead. In the last fight, Rark and the friend is going up against Galad and Arthur. The goblins sets the bar at a 6. And Galad and Arthur gets also 6, which means they win on fight value. Galad got an upgrade last game, so he has a strength of 4, which means he will only need 3s to wound Rark. And he gets 1. Arthur will still need 4s. And he get it! Fate roll. Save! Priority went to the goblins, but Galad will use 1 point of might to call a heroic move. This in turn is countered by Zork, which also calls a heroic move, so this is a roll-off. 4 to 6 goes to the dead. And it does. The Rider of the Dead charged into the Prowler once again. And over here we have Caspar and a friend going against the Troll. These two will fight this goblin supported by a spear, and Galad charged into Rark once again. Arthur will now cast a Transfix on the Troll, needing a 3+, and he gets it. He then moves in to support Galad. The rest of the goblins could not make their courage checks, so the Dead of Dunharrow have the advantage this round. Let's start with the Rider of the Dead, and he sets the bar at a 6. The Prowler and the Black Shield gets also 6, which means the fight is a tie. 4 to 6, it goes to good. And it does! Can the Prowler Sandry survive another round? 4 attacks against him, needing 4s. Yeah. He is dead. In the next fight, the Troll sets the bar at a 6, and the army of the dead guys cannot win. The Troll is still transfixed, so he cannot strike blows. In the next fight, Gash and his friend sets the bar at 5, and the dead guys get 3, but they can reroll 1 die. And they get 3 again, so that's not enough. The goblins will need 6s by 4s, and they get 1 6. Can they get a 4? They do! And this is a regular guy, so he is dead. And in the last fight, Galad and Arthur sets the bar at a 3. And Rark and a friend gets also 3. Galad will reroll 1 die because of his banner. And he gets a 2. Rark will use his point of might to turn that 3 into a 4. But Arthur is countering this by making this 3 a 4. So the Dead of Dunharrow wins on fight value. Galad needs a 3 to wound. And he get it, and Arthur needs a 4. He does not. But Rark is out of fate, so he is dead. The army of the dead got priority, and this Rider of the Dead moved into combat with this goblin. Caspar and a friend moved into combat with the Troll, and this regular dead guy went into combat with this shield and spear combo. Galad took the fight to Zork, the army leader of the Moria goblins, and he was also supported by Arthur. Let's see how the goblins fare in regards to courage. The Black Shield moved into support of this goblin, and only 1 archer was able to make the charge. And this goblin supports Zork in this combat. Let's start with the Rider of the Dead, and he sets the bar at a 4. The goblins respond with a 2. The goblin is not prone, and the Rider of the Dead needs 4s to kill him. And he gets 2 6s, so bye-bye little goblin. In the next fight, the Troll sets the bar at a 6, winning automatically. 4s to wound, and he gets 2 4s, or 1 4 and 1 6. But the guy he is trying to wound is Caspar, and he has 2 points of fate, so he will use those now. And he fails both of them, so Caspar is dead. In this next fight, the dead guy will go first, and he gets 1. Gosh with spear support gets double 1s. How is this possible? Well, the dead may just as well reroll the die and gets a 2. He rerolled because of the banner from Galad. He wins the fight. He will strike at Gosh, needing 4+. No. I totally forgot. Gosh has the Blade Master rule, which means he can reroll 1d6, and he will do that and gets a 3, so the goblins win the fight. Needing 6s to kill, No. Over here we have one goblin archer against Arthur, and the goblin gets a 3. Arthur gets 5. Forced to kill? He does. Sork and a spear support against Galad, and the goblins get 6. Galad gets 1, but he will re-roll. To a 4, not enough. Needing 6s by force, nothing. The Moria goblins got priority, but the troll and the black shield failed their courage tests and couldn't charge this turn. But over here Gash and a friend charged into this guy, and Galad is engaged with 2 goblins over here. Arthur in the back is only engaged with 1 bowman. In the move phase of the Dead of Dunharrow, this spearman went in to support his comrade over here, and the Rider of the Dead charged into the Black Shield. In the first fight, the Black Shield will be shielding, and he sets the bar at a 5. The Rider of the Dead gets 5. The Rider wins and needs 4 to kill, and he get it. In the next fight, Gash and a friend sets the bar at a 6, and the dead guys get 5, but they can reroll 1 die because of the banner of Galad, but that is no use. 6s to kill? No! But Gash has a point of might to turn this into a 6, killing off another dead one. Archer against a goblin, and the goblin gets 5, and Archer gets 6. Forced to kill? Oh, that is a cocked die. No! And the last fight, the goblins set the bar at 6, and Galad gets a 2, but he can re-roll because of his banner. Still 2. The goblins need 6s by force, and they get nothing. Alright, so the craziest thing happened. The goblins got priority, but failed every courage test they were required to make, which means they could not charge anyone. The Dead of Dunharrow charged in, and we have 3 combats this turn. The Rider of the Dead goes first, and he sets the bar at a 2, and the goblin he is fighting gets also 2. The goblin is knocked prone, and the Rider of the Dead needs 4s to kill him, and he is dead. Gash against a dead guy, and Gash will be shielding, and he sets the bar at a 2. And the Dead of Dunharrow gets a 1. But can re-roll because of the banner and wins the fight. No, that is not true, because Gash can re-roll 1 die. Let's see if he can make it. And he gets a 5, but that is not enough because he loses on fight value. Needing 4s to kill, and he gets it. Fate roll, he saves. In the last fight, Sork will be shielding, and he gets a 6, and Galad gets a 2, and Arthur gets a 2, but he will reroll 1 die because of the banner. It's not enough. The army of the dead got priority and charged into the 2 remaining goblin heroes. The troll passed his courage test and went into combat with the Rider of the Dead. This spearman went in to support Sork in his combat, and these 2 archers failed their courage tests. Starting with the Rider of the Dead, he sets the bar at a 4, and Troll gets a 5. Reroll for the Rider of the Dead banner, and it's not enough. The Troll needs 4 to kill the Rider, and he gets 1 4 and 2 5, so the Rider of the Dead is dead. The next fight is Gash versus a dead one. Gash sets the bar at a 2, and the dead guy gets a 5. Needing force to kill Gosh, and now he is dead. In the last fight, Sork and his friend gets a 6, and Galad gets... Oh, is this cocked? No, it's a 6. So Galad wins the fight. Galad needs 3 to wound Sork. And he gets it. And Arthur needs force. No. Fate roll for Sork. He has 2 fates. Oh, he fails the first one. Can he make the second one? He does. Now, this is the state of the fight. The army of the dead got priority, and if they lose 1 model, they will be quartered and the game will end. The goblins need to lose 2 more models and the game will end. So this is exciting. The Dead of Dunharrow changed up their tactics and charged into the goblin archers. Now it's up to the goblins' courage checks if this can go their way. Starting with Sork, he needs an 8 and he fails. Will the troll make it? He needs 7. No! And the spearman? No. Archer against a goblin archer, and the archer gets a 3 and Archer gets a 1, but he can reroll because of the banner, and he gets a 4, winning the combat. Force to kill. He is dead. 1 to go. This is exciting. The last goblin archer will set the bar and he gets a 1, which means he automatically loses the fight. Can he survive 2 attacks from the army of the dead? Galad needs a 3 up and he gets a 1, so he fails. And his friend gets a 4, which means the goblin is dead. And the Dead of Dunharrow are victorious in this battle. Before the next battle, Gando and Goff has to roll their old battle wounds. And Gando gets a 6, so he can join the fight. And Goff gets 5, so he can also join. The dwarves got to choose their table edge and chose this one, deploying their entire force over here. Their archers were put on top of the building to be able to shoot at the wargs. The warg riders deployed on the opposite board edge, having their bulk of their forces in the middle, some wargs onto the right to be able to flank eventually, and some throwing spears on the left. The first round, the warg riders got priority and moved up their entire force. The dwarves moved into a defensive position, getting ready to handle the warg riders. Their archers stood still to be able to fire their bows, and they will shoot at the warg riders approaching from the right. In the shooting phase, Drudar is going to shoot at this warg rider over here. Needing force to hit. He misses. Trubo is firing at the same orc. He can shoot twice and needs force to hit. Gets 2 hits. He needs to roll an in the way roll for this rock formation. For the shots to get through, he will need 5 up. And he gets 2! Horse or warg or rider. They will hit the rider. He will need 5s or 6s to wound, and he gets 1 5 and 1 6. The rider is dead and the warg needs to take a courage test, which he passes. An argument could be made that when the rider died, the second shot would hit the warg. So, in case of fairness, on a 4-up, the warg takes the other wound. No. Now, this regular dwarf will shoot at the middle warg rider. Needing force to hit. He hits. 5 up to go through the rock. No. The dwarves got priority in the next round, and the only move they did was to put these 3 guys closer to the rock, being able to ambush the warg riders next round, maybe. The warg riders moved up with their forces and stayed out of charge range of the dwarves. Some of the Warg Riders moved in closer to these three guys and had to get closer to gain line of sight for a charge next turn. These Wargs continue their flanking move. In the shooting phase, this regular dwarf is going to shoot at this Warg Rider. Hitting force to hit. He misses. Truebow in the middle here will fire at the same Warg Rider, needing force to hit. Nothing. And Drudar will take a shot at Drosorg in the middle here. Needing force to hit. He hits. Warg or Rider hits the Warg. Needing 5s to kill. He gets it! Drosorg will need to take a knocked flying or thrown rider roll, and he gets 5, so he's fine. As I don't have a model of Drosorg on foot, we will use Sork as his stand-in. Now it's the shooting phase of the Warg Riders, and this Warg Rider will throw his spear at Grul, needing 6s to hit, and he hits! 6s to wound, and he wounds! Grul is a hero and will use his fates. 4 up. No, he fails. Grul is dead. I totally forgot that Grul could throw his weapon, so he would do that against the Warg Rider. He would need a 4 up to hit. No. The Warg Riders got priority, and these 3 Wargs continued their flanking move. These Warg Riders with bow moved closer to be within range of the Dwarven archers. Drosorg, Snugug, and a Warg Rider with shield charged into the Dwarves. This Warg and this Warg Rider with shield moved into combat with the 2-handed weapon warriors of the Dwarves. On to the shooting phase. The Warg Riders with bow will fire their bows at these Dwarf warriors with bow. Starting with Arset in the middle, he has no penalty for moving and shooting, so he will need a 5 up. And he misses. The other 2 will shoot at Truebow, and they need 6s to hit. 1 hit. In the way roll because of the building, 4 up. It goes through, needing 6s to wound. Nothing. Snugug has heroic presence, so he can call a free heroic combat every turn, so he will do that now. Snugug sets the bar at a 6, and the Dwarves get 4. Goff is knocked prone, and Snugug has 4 attacks to try to kill him. He needs 6s. Nothing. In the next fight, Gando is fighting Drosorg. Gando sets the bar at a 3. Drosorg, having 2 attacks, gets also 3. Drosorg loses the fight on fight value, so he will use 1 point of might to turn this 3 into a 4. Gando then responds with his point of might up to 4, and then Drosorg uses his last point of might to a 5 to win the fight. This is to drain Gando of his might and still win the fight, so it's worth it. Drosorg needs 6s to wound. Nothing. And this fight over here, the Warg Rider sets the bar at 6. And Kaza and his friends, can they answer this? No. Kaza is knocked prone and gets 4 attacks against him. The Warg Rider needs 6s to wound. And he gets nothing. In this fight over here, the dwarf will strike with a regular hand weapon. And the dwarf sets the bar at a 5. The Warg Rider gets 4. The dwarf is going for the rider, and he needs 5s to kill. And he gets it! Courage test on the warg. He saves. Or passes. In the last fight, Midzu is using his 2-handed weapon because he is burly. The warg sets the bar at a 3. Midzu gets a 1. The dwarves, having 1 reroll during the entire battle, will use this now because of the chance of winning. And they get another 1. Too bad. The warg will strike, needing 6s to wound. And they get it! What bad luck! Fate roll for Midzu. He saves. The dwarves got priority, but Snugug is using his point of might to call a heroic move. This is then countered by Kaza, who is calling a heroic move of himself. 4 to 6, it goes to good. And it goes to evil. Snugug, Drozorg and the last Warg Rider were able to charge into the Dwarves because of the heroic move. In the Dwarves' turn, the fighting models stood up to be able to engage the Warg Riders. Over here, the Dwarves got into combat with the Wargs. The rest of the Warg movement, these guys continued their flanking move to be able to charge next turn. The archers stood still to be able to fire their bows, and the throwing spears turned around to throw their spears at the Dwarven archers. In the shooting phase, the Trubo, the dwarf, is going to shoot at this Warg Rider, needing 4s to hit. He gets 1 hit. It hits the Warg or the Rider. It hits the Warg, needing 5s to wound. He gets it! Throne Rider, he's good. Once again, I don't have the models for a dismounted Warg Rider, so this goblin will have to do. Now, this dwarf is going to shoot at the dismounted Warg Rider, needing 4s to hit. No. Drudar will do the same thing, needing 4s. He hits, needing 5s to kill. No. The Warg Riders will throw their spears back at the dwarf. The one that got dismounted cannot throw, as he did not get the 6 on his Throne Rider roll. But the other one will throw his spear at Trubo, and he needs 5s to hit. He misses. Arset in the middle will shoot at Trubo, needing 5s to hit. He misses. And the 2 other Warg Riders will also shoot at Trubo, needing 5s. And both of them hits! Incredible! In the way rolls on a 4+. 1 gets through. 6s to wound? No. In the combat phase, Midzu is fighting a Warg. He sets the bar at a 2, and the Warg gets a 5, needing 5s to kill. And he gets it! 8 roll, saves. In the next fight, the dwarf will fight with his 2-handed axe, and he gets a 3, which is turned down to a 2, and the Warg gets a 2, so it's a tie, but the dwarf have a higher fight, so he will win. Normally the dwarf would wound on a 5, but because of his 2-handed axe, he will need a 4 to kill the Warg. And he gets it! The Warg is dead. In the next fight, Kaza and his friend are fighting a Warg Rider. And the Warg Rider sets the bar at a 5. And the dwarves get a 2. Warg Rider gets 4 attacks and needs 6s to kill. Nothing. Gando versus Drozorg, and Gando sets the bar at a 2, and Drozorg gets also 2. They don't have any might left, so Drozorg loses the fight. And Gando needs 5s to wound. And he gets a wound. Fate roll, saves. In the last fight, the Warg Rider Snugug sets the bar at a 2. And the Dwarves, 5, winning the fight. Dwarves will need 5s to wound. And they get a 6. Fate roll, fail. And Snugug has no might left, so he cannot adjust that roll. We will need to roll for the Warg. Will it stay on the board or run away? It will stay. In the next round, the dwarf gets priority, and 1 foe spear will head on to these wargs and try to stop them from trapping them. And the other dwarves over here moved into combat with the guys they were in combat with last turn. And over here, 1 foe spear charged into the warg with the throwing spear. Midzu engaged the warg once again, and the other dwarf engaged this orc with throwing spear. In the Warg Rider's turn, these wargs surrounded this foe spear and trapped him. These guys still will stand still to fire their bows, as there are no room for them to move into combat. Normally it would be the dwarves' shooting phase, but Arset can call a free heroic shoot every turn if he wants, so he is going to do that now. Hitting through bow, he needs 5s to hit, and he misses. The other 2 Warg Riders shoot at through bow as well, and 1 hits. On the 4-up, it goes through the wall, and it doesn't. Trubo in turn will then fire at Arset, needing 4s to hit, and he gets 1 hit. Will it hit the Warg or the Rider? It will hit the Rider, needing 5s to wound. No. Drudar on the left will also shoot at Arset, needing 4s to hit. He misses, and the last dwarf will also shoot at Arset, and he hits. Will it hit the Warg or the Rider? It hits the Rider, and he needs a 5-up. And he wounds Arset. Arset will use his fate, and he fails, but will use 1 might to turn that into a 4. On to the combat phase. The trapped foe spear will set the bar against the wargs on a 3. And the wargs will respond. Can they beat it? Yes, with good margin. The foe spear is trapped, and the wargs have a strength of 4 against a defense of 6. They double their attacks to 6 attacks and needs 5s to kill. And they get 1/5, so just kills him. In the next fight, Guff is fighting a Warg, and Guff sets the bar at a 4, and the Warg gets a 5. Warg needs 6s to kill, and he gets a 5. Gando is fighting Drozorg, and Gando gets a 2, and Drozorg, having 2 attacks, gets double 6s. So Gando has to back away. 6s to wound. Whoa! Double 6s for Drozorg. Gando has 2 wounds and 1 fate, so he will try to fate this one. And he makes it. He's down to 1 wound and no fates. Kaza is fighting a Warg Rider, and he will set the bar at a 4. The Warg Rider, only 1 attack because he got charged, gets also 4, which means Kaza will win on fight value. Kaza will strike at the Rider, and he'll need 5s to wound. And he gets a 6. The Warg Rider is dead. Will the Warg stay or will the Warg run? Oh, this is crooked. 7. The Warg has a courage of 2 and would normally flee the battlefield. But Drozorg has a +1 courage to every model within 6, so he stays. Over here we have a foe spear against a Warg Rider with throwing weapon. The Warg Rider gets 4, and the dwarf gets 6, winning the fight. He will try to take out the Rider. He has a strength of 4 against a defense of 4, so this is a 4-up. Let's see. Oh, it's a kill. Will the Warg stay? 7. And I had to measure this, but the Warg is not within 6 of Drozorg, so this entire model is gone. This dwarf is fighting a Warg Rider with throwing spear, and the dwarf sets the bar at a 5, which is turned into a 4, and the Warg Rider gets a 3, losing the fight. 4s to kill. He gets it. The Warg Rider is dead. In the last fight, Midsu sets the bar at a 2, and the Warg gets a 6, needing 5s to kill. No. The Wargs got priority and charged into the main force of the Dwarves. Over here, 1 Warg charged into this dwarf, and these guys stood hang back to shoot their bows. The Dwarven archers feel the pressure and needs to get down to help their comrades. Moving from the left. Oh, he falls and have to take a test on a 6. He is wounded and he's wounded. He needs to use his fate. Can he save? No, he died from the fall. Poor Drudar. Drubo, seeing his friend just leap to his death, mounts up his courage and tries to get down, and he gets a 2, so he gets down safely. And the last dwarf tries to go down and gets a 4. The foe spear went into combat with this Warg, and the last dwarf went into combat with this Warg. In the shooting phase, the Warg Rider to the right will shoot at Trubo down here. He has a clear line of sight and needs 5s to hit, and he gets a 4. The other 2 will shoot at the other dwarf, having a clear line of sight, needing 5s to hit. 1 hit, and they need 6s to wound. And they get a wound! This is a regular dwarf, so he is dead. In the combat phase, Midzu and his friends are going to attack the Warg, and they set the bar at a 5. The Warg responds with a 3. The Dwarves will need a 4 to kill the Warg, and they get nothing. Over here, Goff is fighting 2 Wargs, and Goff will be shielding, and he gets a 5, and the Wargs get also 5, but they lose on fight value. Gando is fighting Drosorg and a Warg, and he will also be shielding, and he gets a 3, and Drosorg gets a 6, so they win the fight. Gando, fortunately, is not trapped, so Drosorg and the Warg need 6s on 3 dice to kill him, and nothing. Kaza is fighting a Warg, and Kaza sets the bar at a 6, which means he automatically wins. The Warg has to back away, and Kaza can make strikes. He will need 5s to wound, and he gets a 5, and the Warg is dead. In the last fight, the foe spear is fighting a Warg, and the foe spear gets a 3. The Warg gets a 4. Needing 5s to kill the foe spear, and he gets a 6. The foe spear is dead. The Warg Riders got priority and moved into combat with the Dwarves, trapping 2 of them. Over here, the one Warg went into combat with both Dwarves, and the archers moved up to be able to support if one of the Wargs is dead. Trubo will charge into this Warg and will be ready for some combats. Starting with Gando, Drosorg and the Warg, because Gando is trapped if this combat goes first. Gando is shielding and he gets a 4. Drosorg gets double 1s, and the Warg, can he save the day? No! He also gets a 1. Lucky break for the Dwarves. In this combat, Goff is fighting 2 Wargs, and he will strike normally, setting the bar at a 3, and the Wargs get 6. The Wargs needs 6s to kill Goff, and they get 1 6. Goff will need to use his last fate points, and oh, that's crooked or cocked, and it's a 5, so he survives. Now Kaza is fighting Arset. Kaza sets the bar at a 5, and Arset, with his 2 attack because he charged, gets a 3. Kaza needing 5s to hit Arset or to wound Arset. He needs a 5 up and he gets a 5. Arset needs to take a fate roll, which he passes. When I looked at the roster, Arset is actually out of fate, so he is dead. And the Warg needs to take a courage check, and he fails, so Arset and his Warg is dead. Trubo against the Warg, and Trubo gets 4, and the Warg gets a 1, so the Warg loses. Needing 5s to kill the Warg. Gets a 4. Trubo will use his point of might to turn that into a 5, killing the Warg. And in the last fight, the Warg will set the bar at a 3, and the Dwarves get also 3. But that is turned into a 2, because that is the regular Dwarf. So the Dwarves loses the fights. The Warg strikes at the regular Dwarf and needs a 5 to hit or to wound, and he gets it, so the Dwarf is dead. At the end of this turn, the Dwarves have been halved, which means they need to start taking courage tests from the next turn. The Warg Riders have lost 50% of their models, but they need 1 more casualty to start beginning to take tests. The Warg Riders got priority and charged in on all fronts except for Trubo, which is still free to move. And Trubo will move into combat with this Warg, helping out Gando. Trubo, I forgot to film this, but he made his courage check, so he is able to charge. Starting with this fight, Goff is fighting 2 Wargs, and the Wargs get 1, and Goff gets also 1, but he will win on fight value. I imagine this is quite a clumsy engagement. Goff will strike at the Warg in the back, and he needs 5s to kill it. And he gets a 6, the Warg is dead. In the next fight, Drosorg is fighting Gando, and Drosorg sets the bar at a 5. Can Gando beat this? He gets a 4. Drozorg will need 6s to kill Gando. Can he get it? Yeah, he can! And Gando is out of fate and only 1 wound left, so he is dead. The next fight is Turbo against the Warg, and Turbo sets the bar at a 2, and the Warg gets a 6. The Warg will need 5s to wound, and he gets a 5. Fate roll, he saves! In this fight over here, Kaza will be shielding, as he is charged by the Warg Rider. And Kaza gets 5, and the Warg Rider gets a 6. Kaza cannot afford to lose this combat, so he will use his last might point to turn his 5 into a 6, winning the fight, but since he's shielding, cannot make strikes. And in the last fight, Midsu sets the bar at a 1. The Warg Rider gets a 6, winning the fight. Midsu is knocked prone and gets 6 attacks against him, and the Wargs need 5 up to kill. And he is dead. At the end of the turn, this is the state of the battle. The Dwarves are broken, and if they lose 1 more model, they will lose the game. The Warg Riders are also broken, but the Dwarves need to kill 3 more models to win. Well, the Dwarves got priority and needs to take some courage tests. Trubo is starting and he is good. He can then move whichever way he wants, and he will just move back to be able to receive the Warg Riders and hopefully make them fail their courage checks. Goff is next and he's good. And now it's Kaza's turn. He gets 8, so he's also safe, moving back with his friends. Drozorg is taking a courage check with +1 because of his special rule. And he gets a 3, that is not enough, so he flees the battlefield. There are no more hero models for the Warg Riders on the board, so each of them has to take a courage check. Let's start with this Warg over here. He has a courage of 2, so he needs an 8. He fails, he flees the battlefield. And the next Warg, will he stay? He gets a 6, so he also flees. And the Warg Rider with bow over here, will he stay? Yes, he does. And this Warg Rider with bow, will he stay? Yes. And the last Warg, he flees. This means that the Dwarves are victorious. And that was a really clever, smart move to not engage the Warg Riders and force them to flee the battlefield. Now it's time for the war aftermath, and we will start with the Moria goblins and their injury rolls. Starting with Rark on the left, he gets a 6. That is a full recovery, and he can also cure his leg wound. Gash is next, and he gets an 8. That is full recovery, and he will also cure his leg wound. Sandri, which is also a hero, gets a 6, full recovery. Now on to the warriors. Let's start from the left to the right. That he's dead. Okay, and the next one, he has to miss the next game. And the next one, he is totally fine. And the next one, he will miss the next game. And he is totally fine. He is fine, and the black shield is fine. Now we have 3 models that's leveled up. Let's start with this warrior with shield over here. Will he be promoted or a hero? No, he will not. Sork got an upgrade and he has the path of the general, so we will roll on that table now, and he gets an 11, which is heroic march and heroic resolve. Rark, which is on the path of the warrior, he will roll and he gets a 7. That will increase his fight value by 1 to 3. Now on to recruitment, and they will roll on the recruitment table using 3 influence points, and they get a 2. And this is a Moria Goblin with bow. Next we have the Dead of Dunharrow, and we will start with injury rolls. Caspar is a hero and he will roll on the hero injury table, getting a 4. This is an arm wound and he can no longer use a shield. Next we have these 2 warriors and these 2 riders. Let's start from the left. First one gets 8 and he is fine. The next one 4, he has to miss the next battle. And the first rider a 6, he is fine. Actually, that was a hero, but no matter, he's fine. And the last rider gets a 4 and has to miss the next battle. The only one leveling up in this match was Arthur, and he will roll on the path of the sorcerer, getting an 11. That is wise advice. Once per turn, the hero may allow one friendly model within 6 to reroll a single d6 during a duel roll. The Dead of Dunharrow have 6 influence points, so they will use 3 of them to roll on the reinforcement charge. And they get a 1, and that is nothing, so they will use 1 influence point to turn that into a 2, and then they will get 1 warrior of the dead. Now it's the Warg Rider's turn. Snuggug is the first to roll on his injury roll, and he gets a 7, which is fully recovered. Next is Arset, and he gets 5, and that is a leg wound. Asgarg is the last hero, and he gets 7, fully recovered. On to the warriors, starting from the left. Fully recovered. The next one, fully recovered. And one with the shield, fully recovered. And the last one with the shield, fully recovered. And the last warg, fully recovered. Now for advancements. Drozorg and Snuggug leveled up, so we will start with Drozorg. He has the path of the general and he gets a 9. That is strength or defense, and he will choose defense. Snuggug is next and he is on the path of the warrior. He will get 5, which is +1 courage. These 2 wargs leveled up. Let's see if they get a promotion. The one on the left, no. And the other one, yes. So he is upgraded to a Warg Rider with choice of weapon. So he is now a Warg Rider with throwing spear. And the last promotion, on a 6, he becomes a hero. Nope. And now for reinforcements. The Warg Riders have 7 influence points. They will use 3 of them to roll on the table, and they get 3, which is 2 wild wargs. They will then use 1 influence point to turn that into a 4, so they instead get a Warg Rider with Orc Bow. Lastly, we have Gando's Dwarves. Starting with injuries, Gando gets 5, and that is a leg wound. Next we have Drudar. He gets a 5, which is a leg wound. Midzu is next and he gets a 9, which is a full... no, it's just a scratch, so he will roll again. And he gets 4, and that is an arm wound. This means that he cannot use his 2-handed axe until he cures his wound. And Gruul, the Iron Guard, gets 9, which is, it's just a scratch. So he will roll again. He must accept the result. It's a 4, and that is an arm wound. This means that until he can cure his wound, he will not have 2 attacks, but only 1. The rest of the warriors, starting from the left, first one gets 5, and he is injured and must sit the next game out. The next one gets 3, which means he is dead permanently. First foe spear gets a 11 and is totally fine, and the last one gets 6, which is also a full recovery. 3 of the dwarves got enough experience to level up, and we'll start with Trubo, which is on the path of the ranger. He will roll and he gets 4. He already has expert shot, so he can roll again. And he gets 12. That was out of focus. Now you can see. And he gets lethal aim, which is a free single point of might during each shoot phase. This can be used to improve a hit, a wound, or an in the way roll. Next is Drudar, and he is also on the path of the ranger. He gets an 8. This is pinpoint shot, and he already has that one, so he will roll again. And he still gets an 8. Come on now. 6. He gets steady aim, which means he do not suffer the -1 penalty to hit when he moved in the move phase. Goff has chosen the path of the warrior and will roll on that table. He gets a 5. He will get +1 courage, and which brings him up to 5. Reinforcements. The dwarves have 7 influence points and will use 3 of them to roll on the reinforcement table. And they get a 5. And that is a dwarf with choice of weapon. So they will choose a dwarf with bow because they lost one this round. They still have 4 influence points left, so they will use another 3 to roll on the reinforcement table. And they get a 3. And that is a warrior with a 2-handed axe. This is the updated scoreboard. This is it for now. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content like this. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with our latest videos and be a part of our growing community. We appreciate your support, and it encourages us to create more valuable content. So go ahead, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we'll see you in the next video.